Okay, great. Well, thanks ever so much for joining us. So I'm Mike, I'm chair of the trust, and it's really fantastic to see everyone today. This is actually now in a few days, over a few days, we've done 3 long-term service awards. We started last week with those colleagues who have provided 40 years service to the trust. And I think we had a kind of between a handful and a double handful of colleagues involved in that particular celebration. Then this morning we celebrated colleagues who'd done, sounds like prison term, doesn't it, done 30 years, and that was about, what was it, 70 or so people, colleagues, August, or maybe not quite as many as that. But now we've got to those of you like who've served for Addenbrooke's for 20 years, and there are more than 100 of you here today, so it's really wonderful to see you here today, and thank you for joining this celebration. What I hope will also be a piece of collective nostalgia as we all think back to what it was like as a hospital and as a place and a country 20 years ago. So I'm going to start with a quiz, if that's all right. What does the number 11,803 mean to anybody? Can anybody think of what 11,803 might mean? I don't hear any takers. No.
Number of staff.
Very good guess, and it might be. I don't think it is quite right. No, it might have been though. Yeah, that's a really good guess. I hadn't thought of that one. No, what it is collectively all those people who we have been celebrating over last week, this morning, and today have collectively combined provided 11,803 years worth of service to Cambridge University Hospital. Huge, huge number, just absolutely mind-blowing. I find it mind-blowing. It's just huge number of years. So this is really an opportunity for us as a hospital, as a trust, to say a profound thank you, to celebrate your contribution to Addenbrooke's Hospital over all those years. And I'm going to hand over now to Roland, who will be acting as Master of Ceremonies, if you like, for the rest of this. So over to you, Roland.
Lovely, Mike, and a huge thank you and congratulations to everyone in this absolutely terrific ceremony, and a huge thank you, August, to you for all the work that you put in with colleagues in David Werrett's team to get to where we are today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what was happening 20 years ago. Before August, we come over to a 3-minute video that's been put together by John Metcalf, which shows what was really genuinely happening. And then I'll be asking people questions about what life was really like here in 2001. So be ready to tell us the deep, dark secrets. I've heard it from 40, we've heard it from 30 years. I want to see what 20 can really do. Okay, so if we go back to 2001, here are some things that were happening. A £75,000 skills room was opened here at Addenbrooke's and the Rosie to train dental surgeons, and it was named the Varley Room after the oral surgeon Ted Varley. Does anybody remember Ted Varley? There's a lot of shaking of heads. Ted would not be happy. Okay, I'm going to keep going. £1 million was donated by Emmeline Worley-Cohen, and that was used for a new hearing unit, which opened as the Emmeline Centre for Hearing Implants, and the first NHS digital hearing aids were fitted. Okay. Then if we just move on, can anybody remember what the Duchess of Gloucester officially opened in around about 2001 for £4 million? Can anybody remember? Just shout it out. Okay, Duchess of Gloucester, 2001. I'm going to give you a clue. We're going to be building an even bigger new one, hopefully by sort of 2026.
The Rosie?
Close. What happens just after the Rosie?
The Children's Hospital.
Yes, Kerry White wins that one. Yes, so the Duchess of Gloucester officially opened a £4 million children's unit. Okay. The Friends of Addenbrooke's group was launched, and they donated a new car for transplantation, a new transplant car. And a pre-nursing course open for NVQ level 3 and GNVQ health and social care, which guaranteed a place at Homerton with a nursing diploma. Okay, and amazingly, to think back, an internet information point was installed in main reception. We don't have one of those now in terms of just the access to the internet. Okay. Okay, now moving on, two questions building on Mike's quiz. So the first question is, what did Cherry Booth, the very well-known barrister who also happens to be the partner of Tony Blair, what did she open here at Addenbrooke's and the Rosie? Kerry White, are you going to be able to maintain your leading position in the quiz? No? Okay, I'll give you a clue. It relates to the other big hospital that we would like to build by sort of 2026 or so.
Oncology units.
Yes, thank you. Who said that? Who said that?
Bernadine.
Well done. Well done. It was the Cancer Care Centre, Cambridge Breast Cancer Unit. Okay. And then lastly, what did Princess Anne officially open 20 years ago? Royal Family Watchers. Okay, it was the Wellcome Trust MRC building. Okay, so those were some of the things that were happening. But now, August, if we could just turn to you in the video where you'll show us what was really going on in our lives alongside work.
Can anybody else hear this? I can't.
I can't hear it.
I can't hear or see. I thought maybe it was just me.
Okay, we'll go to the beginning again, August. Thanks.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance, in this life or the next.
It will steal your heart tonight. You can try to resist, try to hide from my kiss, but you know, don't you know that you can't fight the moonlight deep in the dark. You'll surrender your heart, but you know, don't you know that you can't fight the moonlight, no. You can't fight it. It's gonna get to your heart.
I have gel in my hair, I haven't slept all night, I'm starved, and I'm armed. Don't mess with me.
Underneath the starlight, we'll be lost in the rhythm so right. Feel it steal your heart tonight. You can try to resist, try to hide from my kiss, but you know.
Whether you voted for me or not, I will do my best to serve your interests, and I will work to earn your respect.
sorry I have to say it, Nick, but very disappointed in yourself. I not only feel, I'm quite positive and got evidence that you're plotting a very dirty plan on everybody in here to vote against each other.
You just won $1 million!
Trevor, you are interested. Bye.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you were here?
Lovely, thank you. And John Metcalf, if you're there, it's clear you love Gladiator, and we are definitely entertained. Please put the sword away. That was fantastic. Thank you. So lovely. So, what was it really like here 20 years ago? How? What were people doing? Well, let's start with, was Burger King here 20 years ago? What did people eat at lunchtime? Or did people not eat 20 years ago? Were we in a land of sort of
no
sound?
Burger King is already here on 2000, because that's when I first came here. We come from the Philippines, straight to the accommodation, drop our luggage, went to, it's not David Dunn, the other room that I can't remember now. And I must say, there's no free lunch for us. I was expecting a free lunch. So my first lunch is Burger King, coming from the Philippines. David, it's fine. I moved on.
So who's speaking? Sorry, I'm just looking. I'm looking.
Nova.
Yeah. So you came 20 years ago, and there was no Burger King and no free lunch.
No, there's a Burger King. That's my lunch.
That was Burger. So there was no free lunch, but Burger King was there.
It is, yeah, and it costs about £2.50 if I'm right.
£2.50. It's good to know. What about other people? What do other people remember from 20 years ago?
I was
Julie?
eating in the David Dunn. We used to provide the Grand Round lunch, which was a 2-course hot lunch. The consultants paid £1 for. And we used to be able to join their lunch to have the leftovers.
Very good. And Julie and Susan Bell, I'm going to come to you in just a moment for a little bit more of a kind of live description as well. But Julie, thanks for that with the David Dunn. And then somebody's popped in the chat that they partied a lot more. So is that from Katie?
And Rachel. So actually, there's 5 of us here today from our team, and we were all a lot younger when we started, without children, and we always used to go out a lot more, and go to like the mess parties and things that used to be held on site.
Yeah. So could you tell us a bit more about what would go on a Friday night on the campus?
Absolutely not. No.
Honestly, Katie, just start at the beginning. I mean, how would a Friday evening here start?
No, I think it's like one of those what happens in Vegas type things.
Okay. But what about things like the Frank Lee and the clinical school and the discos? Do you want to tell us a bit about that? Were they going on?
Yes, definitely. The ones at the Frank Lee were like once a month parties.
Oh yeah, I remember them.
And we were I was living on site then. You probably were living on site. So yeah, lots more partying.
Good. And were the fire brigade or the police ever called to those parties, Katie? There's a lot of nodding now from people.
I think they might. Can't really remember.
One of the advantages of working in PGMC when we were in the clinical school was when the fire brigade used to come out, we used to be able to see all the firemen arriving.
Right. No, we've heard from one of the other groups that there was Friday nights could be quite exciting on the campus and around CUH, and particularly around the Frank Lee and around the residences. Okay. Julie, as you've started as well, would you be able to tell us a bit more in detail? Because I think you volunteered to talk to us a bit more about what life was like here. And then, Julie, when you've spoken, Susan, are you here as well? I think you are.
Yeah,
it would be lovely to come to you and hear from you as well. And then we'll open it up some more for comments. So Julie.
So when I started, I'd come from finance, so I'd come from the city. Had my children and couldn't go back to the city and came to Addenbrooke's, and the culture was so different. In the city, nobody really said well done. You were just expected to get on with it, and nobody ever said, how could we do that better? Because that was an admission of having done something wrong, and that was the biggest single difference to me. I thought, oh, I've done a fantastic job. Someone said, well done. And then they immediately said, how could you have done that better? And I think that's the thing about Addenbrooke's that I've found, that it's constantly questioning, how could we do it better? What could we do that was better? But I think the atmosphere was so different then, especially in PGMC, because we didn't fit anywhere. Nobody knew whether we were hospital or university. So we snuck in under the radar, got the best of both worlds. There was a lot you could do with a box of chocolates and a bottle of wine that sadly just doesn't work now, but I missed it. I missed it. And I've actually finished at Addenbrooke's. I finished last year, which was one of the reasons why I opted to speak. I finished my career there early. My mum was ill, and so I stopped to take care of her. So I've watched you from afar as you've morphed into all sorts of different shapes to deal with the coronavirus, and it's been phenomenal watching what the hospital can do. But yes, life was very different.
No, Julie, it's definitely been an extraordinary 18 months, hasn't it? I think for all of our community, and for all of our members of staff, and I think all of the staff and our partners as well. Mm. And Julie, if we could just go back to what it felt like here. So you say we were always questioning, could we do things better?
Yeah, from the very beginning, as soon as I started. I've been running courses for clinical staff. That was what I did as soon as I started, and that was such a culture shock. It was yes, and to have your voice heard. Working in the city, it was very difficult to have your voice heard, to work with people who asked for your opinion and then took your opinion. That was a big difference. But I think the way the money was spent then, we providing hot dinners for £1 and that sort of thing. And I can remember we had a lady who put an order in for paper. She was very stressed. She was organising her son's wedding, which was going to be for about 750 guests, and she got a bit trigger happy on the button and ordered reams and reams of burnt orange paper, which we couldn't use. And oncology ran out of paper, and we were just coming up to where you couldn't order. They'd run out of money. It was late March, and I can remember going over to oncology with reams and reams of burnt orange paper, and all of the letters for oncology in that particular March went out on burnt orange.
I think they still do today, don't they? Is anybody from oncology now?
No idea what the patients must have thought.
No, burnt orange paper. I wonder if there's still some around.
Oh, she ordered so much of it.
So people will question, and do you think did that carry on during your time here, questioning how we could improve?
Never stopped. Never stopped the whole time I was here. I started just as the first skills unit opened in the David Dunn, with 3 little stacks that Storts put in as part of the big theatre refurb. And I finished as part of the Cadaveric Centre in Melbourne. And it's by constantly questioning that we got from this little skills centre in a tiny room at the back of the Dun all the way over to Melbourne into a fully fitted cadaveric centre.
What was the camp, and in terms of Julie, how you got to work and what the campus looked like, what the hospital looked like? Because we've been hearing about football matches at lunchtime, wine in the supermarket, car boots, and patients going out from spinal surgery as part of their rehabilitation to the car boot sale. In other periods, what was it like?
The campus was I thought it was huge when I started, but it was tiny by comparison for what it is now. And when I reached the campus by car, having dropped the children to school and couldn't park. What do you mean I can't park? Eventually got friendly with some of the estates team, and I used to have a car parking space that they used to sneak me in under the radar, which you just couldn't do now. But we used to park right in the centre of the hospital. It could be chaos through the centre of the hospital in the morning. The amount of traffic trying to go through, and people just used to try and use the hospital as a through road through the city to try and get to the other side of the city as quickly as they could. So these poor patients would arrive on site and there was nowhere to park, nowhere to go, everything was at a standstill.
Really helpful to hear, Julie. And Susan, are you with us? Susan Bell?
I am, yes.
So would you like to tell us a bit about things from your point of view?
Well, from my point of view, I came from Glasgow over 20 years ago to come and do an English National Board renal course. I only intended to stay a few years just to get the experience of working at Addenbrooke's before going back home. And I'm still here 20 years later, overall, really enjoying the role and working with the people I do. I mean, people have talked about the challenges we faced in the pandemic, and for me, this wouldn't have been possible without the assistance of my team out at one of our satellite dialysis units at Hinchinbrook. I cannot go without mentioning our consultants, our dietitians, our social care practitioners, our counsellors, and all my colleagues across the units. For me, I think it's development opportunities I've had here that I necessarily wouldn't have had in Scotland. The renal course, teaching course, and most recently was when about 3 years ago, I went on a secondment to West Suffolk Dialysis Unit to manage that for about 6 months. And for me, that strengthened my belief in the relationships we share with colleagues across all departments in the Trust. And I've been lucky to have that opportunity. But I'm going to go back to my own team because what I've achieved in 20 years would not have been possible without them. And nothing seems to faze them too much. For example, just as I was coming back from West Suffolk, we had to shut Hinchinbrook down completely for routine maintenance. And my deputies had the job and logistics in 36 hours of transferring one unit over into the other unit at Cambridge Dialysis Centre, where we were widely embraced by Charmaine Lee and her team, and nothing was too much trouble to help us settle in there. Fun memories. Before I went away on holiday to Canada one year, one of my former deputies came to get me, and we had a flood in our water plant. So I apologise for the water bill for 1,500 litres. But it was done with smiles of laughter and being there for each other. We're not perfect, we're not, but we look out for ourselves, our colleagues, our patients across the Trust. And for me, it's been the teamwork at Addenbrooke's that's been a big highlight for me in 20 years.
That's absolutely lovely to hear. Here, Susan. And what was it like when you first arrived, though, in terms of the team? Were you welcomed in? How was it?
I was. The first unit I worked at Addenbrooke's, it used to be the chronic unit opposite from S2. So it was a small unit. The acute area was the patient area, but was mainly used as a storage room. And the staffing, you were allocated a mentor, there was support, people came and said hello, a lady who used to lived just outside of Glasgow and was working in home therapy. Susan Beck came and said hello on my first day. So I was made to feel very welcome. I think that's not changed over the years.
Yeah. And was it welcoming outside of work? So professionally, you clearly worked in an extraordinary team that you've grown and developed over the years. And you talked about the response during the pandemic. What about outside of work? What was it like coming from Glasgow into this community?
For me, I've never been one to go out to parties or to go to pubs. I've more enjoyed going to the cinema. But I lived on site for 6 years, and it's that for me was sort of the release after my working day was over. Go back to the granny house, and you would have fun, we'd talk, we'd maybe make a meal every now and then, go down in the middle of the night with the fire alarms, 13 flights up, you didn't wait for the lifts to go back up, so you kept fit, I would say, living on site.
And Susan, if you'd gone through the concourse at sort of 8 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday 20 years ago, the sort of buzz we have in the heart of Addenbrooke's, what was it the same feel then? People stopping and talking to each other and exchanging notes. What did it feel like?
I don't remember much about conversations in the concourse. I mean, the layout has changed so much, but you could see corridor conversations going on. You could see people talking. If you didn't know where you were to go, they would either direct you or say, "Oh, I'm going that way." So the kindness of strangers, both professionally and socially, made it brilliant.
Well, Susan, thank you very much for that, and really lovely as well, Julie, to hear from you. And I'm just going to go to the chat now because there are some comments building in there, and do just pop your reflections from 20 years ago in there as well. And Rachel Kerwood, can we just come to you talking about NCCU expanding in 2000 from 8 beds, and it became the largest ICU in Europe at the time. Could you say a bit about that for us? Are you there, Rachel? You may be on mute. I can't see you. No. Well, Rachel, if you want to come in, then do just jump in a moment. And Rachel Horsfall, the paediatric recovery service didn't exist, and children were chaired for an adult recovery by adult trained nurses. Could you say a bit about that?
Yeah, so our service opened in 2002, in May 2002. So before that, all the children would go into the adult recovery. So there'd be a lot of screaming and adults trying to wake up gently with children crying and things like that.
So the children were cared for in adult recovery by adult trained nurses, and how did you carry out that? I mean, what do you do now? How did things evolve?
So they opened the unit in 2002 with 2 nurses that came on secondment from Children's Services. That was me and one other nurse that came from B2, and we only operated on children 3 days a week. So it was quite easy for 2 nurses to sort of cover that. Okay. Now we were operating on children all the time, every day, sort of up to 6 theatres a day. Before it was 1 theatre 3 days a week.
Yeah. God, that's again really interesting to hear about Rachel. And I'm just going to go back to the chat because other comments are coming in. So Laura, car parking was 20p back then, and something's happened because Karen, you're saying it was in October 1999 it was 30 pence. So I don't know if actually the price came down or what. But Laura, what else was going on for you 20 years ago?
Well, it's funny actually because I've got Tracy Murray who's here. Wasn't Tracy Murray, but she actually interviewed me for my first ever job. So it's actually really nice seeing things like that where I actually started in DME. But yeah, car parking was obviously really, really cheap. I do remember the alcohol in the supermarket, which was actually quite handy if you wanted to buy some on your way home after a shift. And obviously I've got Nova there who obviously got me my job as a band 7. So it's quite nice seeing some sort of old familiar faces. And I think what's lovely about Addenbrooke's is it does feel like a proper family. And yeah, I probably didn't think I was going to stay quite as long, but obviously you do, because it feels like you're home. So
Laura, it's good to hear about the supermarket, have that confirmed from the people who've been here for 30 years, and to hear about the car parking. And what was your first job like when you were interviewed for that and you first started working here? What was it like that first week?
Oh, well, I started as a healthcare assistant, and it was obviously very scary when you first started here. I actually remember on my second shift, Georgina Forbes was actually one of the band 6s on my ward. I actually hit my head on one of the old patient line TVs, and I ended up being I passed out and got taken to A&E. So I never forget my first couple of shifts because I couldn't believe doing that. Yeah, it was obviously very, very scary because obviously it was a very big place, but everybody made me feel very, very welcome, and it obviously worked because I obviously did my training. I got seconded to do my training, and obviously got my own ward, and very proud of my own ward on C5. So yeah, very proud to be part of Addenbrooke's.
And if you think, Laura, over the last 20 years, then so if we leave knocking yourself unconscious on the TV to one side, what were the other sort of big events for you in terms of your career here and how you felt supported? What were the moments you thought, blimey, I could have turned left or I could have turned right, and I turned right at that moment and that made a difference, and now here I am running my own ward? What would be the moments?
That's sort of difficult to say, actually, because I was going to do my nurse training anyway. And I actually remember one of the healthcare assistants persuading me to get a secondment and obviously do your level 2 and level 3. So I did that after getting the experience. Obviously, I did a rotation as well at Addenbrooke's, and I'm very pro rotation because I think it gives you a lot of experience in different departments. And from doing that, I think that helped me sort of get known in different areas. I ended up working in A&E for a bit, and I think that was a brilliant experience. And obviously a few years back, that's obviously when I first met you, Roland, I won one of the You Made a Difference awards for when I had to run D7, which was obviously quite challenging at the time doing that as a secondment, and it was the DTOC award. But again, that was, I suppose, a turning point in my career, because that then made me want to be a band 7 officially. So, and obviously that's what I'm doing now.
Yes, we met first, didn't we, Laura? I think you were on D7, weren't you?
Yes.
Putting that team together.
Yeah.
And Laura, if you look forward and you think about the lessons or the spirit of Addenbrooke's and the Rosie, what makes it special? What sort of things would you want all of us on this Zoom call to carry forward? What sort of things do you think are important to keeping the flame burning strong?
I think it's just that everyone treats everybody nicely, and it's just a sort of, when you walk past certain people, they give you a smile. I think it's just got such a very nice sort of friendly feel, and everyone's so helpful and wants to help you as well if you don't know things. There's lots of people who could just pick up the phone or email, and I think that is very good in such a big hospital, because I think sometimes you might feel like you could lose that, but actually I feel even now, if I wanted to email you or even perhaps David Werrett, I would, and I think something like this brings us all together.
No, it does, doesn't it? So keep working with people and engaging with them as we'd like to be engaged with ourselves, and just stay open to conversation, really.
Yeah.
Could I just, so Laura, lovely to hear from you as ever. And could I just come, I'm sorry, I don't know your full name, but it says Marlowe C. Are you there, Marlowe C? Talking about starting in A&E in 1999 and working with an amazing team.
I am. It's Kate. It's Kate.
Hi, Kate. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. How are you? It's the first time I've seen your face. Isn't that weird?
Is it?
Yeah. I know.
Well, it's lovely to see you
Very
as well.
Dashing, I must say.
Sorry?
Very dashing.
Oh, it's very, very nice of you to say. I don't quite know what to say to that. That won't get me sacked. So, and my boss is on the call just next to me. That's nice of you. The reason I'm absolutely freezing in my.
Oh.
No, I'm wearing all the clothes I can lay my hands on.
Oh, crikey.
Kate, so you started in A&E in 1999, and you worked with an amazing team there, and then you retrained as a midwife in 2006.
Yes,
so,
I did.
and parking was 20p, so it's good to have that
It
confirmed.
really was, and the alcohol was absolutely in the shop as well, so
Right.
it was great.
But what was it like in A&E when you said that? Talk about. Would you tell us a bit about the team in A&E?
Oh, they were fantastic. I went in completely green, never having worked in an environment like that before, and they taught me everything. They were fantastic. I still miss it to this day. I still wonder if I made the right career choice sometimes, because it was the most. Every time I see an ambulance, I want to know what's in it. Every time I see HeliMed coming in, I want to know. It was the best years of my life. They were stopping the 18-month conversion course to midwifery, so that's why I did it. And actually, I've stayed there since. But the Rosie is completely unrecognisable to what it was when we started. There wasn't the new Rosie Birth Centre. There wasn't the new NICU. It was completely different. We're so lucky to have the unit we've got now. The Rosie Birth Centre is just the most amazing place to work, and what it offers women is fantastic.
And do you think that's the building, or has the culture evolved and changed? What do you think it is?
No, I think so. I work in the community, and we do go into the Rosie Birth Centre from time to time to help if they're busy, but it's just the way that we do, especially in the community. My team, I work for the Sienna team, and it is the most amazing coherent team. We've just recently merged with another team, and they are really just they can't believe how seamlessly we all work together. A group of girls, we never argue, we all just respect each other's opinions and work very hard. And the Rosie itself, of course, is part of that. We're moving to continuity, which unfortunately puts old dinosaurs like me out to pasture, because I can't do the continuity role. So what will become of me, I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to A&E if they'll have me.
Yeah, but it's interesting to talk about the team, and I know that the continuity of care is a real challenge across the country, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's not being driven by the Rosie, really. It is being driven by the government, and for women, it's going to be amazing. And actually, that's what you just got to take from it, really. That for the women, it will be better, and that is the main thing. That the women will have the same midwife all the way through. It's been challenging during lockdown with not being able to go into our GP surgeries and things. So we're all in children's centres. So the women really have had a disjointed care. So this will be better for them. And actually, that's what I'm taking from it.
So Kate, so what you're saying to us then is you're saying, look, you were green when you started here, but the team welcomed you in and supported you, and you had opportunity
amazing.
to do different things, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. My training was funded as a midwife, for which I'm eternally grateful. I've loved working as a midwife and as a nurse. Still miss nursing, I have to say. But midwifery has been an amazing opportunity. I've seen help families through some amazing times, some sad times, and it's all been with the support of my team. It's been amazing. They put me straight out to the community from qualifying, which was a little bit scary, but I love the community. It's just an amazing place to work. Yes,
and hearing you talk about why continuity, whilst it's difficult for you, possibly, it's good for the mums.
Definitely. For me as an individual, it's difficult because I won't be able to do it. But that's I understand why it's happening, and I do think it will be better for the women. And I certainly it is coming with a lot of challenges, though, as I know you're all aware. It is very, very challenging to try and get the balance right.
And what would you want us? I mean, you're clearly thinking about the people you look after at the heart of what you do. What would you want the trust? The trust is all of us. What would you want all of us to take away as we think about the next sort of 20 years? What sort of things should we be holding on to in the way that we were hearing before?
I hope the trust realises that we are all the most valuable assets that it's got, and that it continues to look after us, and that we continue to look after each other. Really, you know, it's a magnificent workforce when you think of, you know, how it runs. It is it's incredible, and it's changed. I mean, there was no Papworth, there was no, you know, A&E has changed beyond recognition as well. It's just incredible. But yeah, I hope the trust realises how lucky they are to have all of us as individuals as well, but also as individuals, how lucky we are to have our teams. And
So
keep
again,
going
it's about the people and how we all look after each
Absolutely.
other and value each other.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. You don't very often hear very many crosswords between staff. Very, very rarely. You know, and times have been tough, particularly through the pandemic. They've been really, really tough. But we've just kept smiling and looking after each other. So, you know, I think we're lucky in that respect, that we do have each other. I have my team, and I'm forever grateful for them. You know, whether that was in A&E, at the Rosie, or in my own community teams. Yeah.
Well, lovely. Well, thank you so much for writing in the chat, and lovely to hear those very personal reflections from A&E through to the Rosie. And I wondered, I'm just in the chat, and I'm just going to move on. And Saunders C talking about the clinical research facilities. And I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. Are you there still, Saunders C?
Yes, I'm here, Roland. It's Caroline.
Oh, hi. Sorry, hi. How are you? Sorry,
Yeah, good. Thank you. I'm just saying that in the chat that, well, in 2001, we opened one of the first clinical research facilities in the country. We were one of 5 then. And there are now probably round about 40 across the UK. And we had one small unit in the ACCI called the Clinical Investigation Ward, which was a pilot for the clinical research facility. It was due to close. It never did. And now we have 6 units for conducting research for patients. And there have been some tremendous successes over the years. But I think our most prominent success has really been in the last year, where we've sent our teams out into the trust to do the COVID research, to recruit patients to the platform trials, the vaccine trials, to do the testing for the Samba PCR testing kit. So yeah, so for the next 20 years, you know, I'd like to see more of that. A sort of higher profile for research across the whole of the NHS, I think, giving patients and staff the opportunity to take part.
Yes, we had a good discussion, didn't we, at the 8:27?
You did. You had Anne Elmer and you had Dorothy Coslimer.
Yeah, which was wonderful, wasn't it, on Tuesday last week?
That's right.
We were hearing, I think, both about how brave our colleagues were across the hospital, but in the research community, really working out ways to make sure that as many patients as possible were in research trials that would benefit them, and also the global response to COVID, but also the architecture for research for the next sort of 5+ years from Miles and John. So you're saying we need more of that, aren't you, really?
Well, I think we're fine with what we've got, but it would be good to see research embedded in the mainstream NHS, you know, sort of raise awareness of opportunities for patients to take part in trials, but also for staff. You know, it's a great career option. I've been really fortunate with the staff that we've had. They come, they stay a long time, they love it, they get promoted. And we have a really dedicated team.
Brilliant. And then if we just go back 20 years again to what was your working life like here then?
So my working life then was, I was working in medical admissions.
Yeah.
That was based in G2.
Yeah.
I remember patients used to come in and sit in a chair and wait in a big circle. And we used to wait for things called pink slips coming from GPs telling us that their patient was on the way. And there was a dreadful white board where you would write all the expected patients, and you'd sort of have this impending sense of doom as to whether you could find a bed to put them in and process them through through the small number of beds that were in G2.
Right. And so that's helpful. So we had pink slips. And can you tell me, I'm just sort of trying to track when things like smoking started to ease in different directions. So was puffins still around 20 years ago, which is, David, I think you were telling me early on.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a smoker.
That's the correct answer, yeah.
Somebody else can answer that one.
I think that's where you met the chief. We used to meet the chief exec. You'd have to take up smoking to get to know the chief exec.
Really?
Yeah. He was in there quite a lot. Do you remember Roy Mel? Was that 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so puffins remained until about until it became illegal to smoke indoors. I remember it well. You wouldn't believe the color of the walls.
Right.
It was painted white, I think, but it was certainly not white by the time it was decommissioned. And
Okay,
it then became Peter Lester's office after a fresh coat of paint.
Great. It's very kind of someone to paint the office for him.
Well, Roland, I can tell you when I was first award sister here, which was in, I think, about 1990, my office was nicotine stained because that's where all my staff went to smoke.
Right. Okay. Gosh, that's quite a change to where we are now. Lovely. So thank you so much for that. And you're absolutely right. As we go forward, we are, going to continue to really champion our investment and commitment to research. So lovely to have you highlight that. And then, Vicky, you're still with us, are you, on the call? I'm just looking for you because I can see you're in the chat as well. Vicky de Montfort Rob.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Lovely to see you.
It's nice to see everybody. Hi.
Yeah, it's great. So tell us about your journey here, Vicky. And you and I have got to know each other, mentoring each other, haven't I? You've taught me quite a lot. So, Vicky, what's it been like for you? If you go back 20 years to now.
Yeah, so not quite the same experience as Nova, but I did live in a granny house and started in neuro rotation, which I think was a fantastic experience because you then get exposed to all different aspects of neuro and any neuro-related stuff from rehab to, critical care and things like that. People were very, very supportive. I remember Claudia McFarlane was still an ops manager in neurosciences at that time. And I remember her scaring us all to death. That was our induction. And she scared us by basically giving us an example of why we would definitely need to sign up to RCN, because we had an incident at that time. And that was the beginning of us having the need to do, when we say cardiac arrest, you need to say alpha 3, because there was that incident before where it wasn't very clear whether it was an A or they didn't hear. So there was a delay in the recess. And that was a learning from us in neuro. And that was just very new at that time. So our part of our induction was to tell us that you need to get to do that. And so it was very good though, because we were trained, we were supported. And yes, it was a big family, really. For me, the neuro was a big family.
Yeah, and I can see that you, just again looking in the chat, that you've all sorts of connections with the family across the hospital. So,
Yes.
so talk a bit about that, how that felt for you.
Oh, Karen, maybe Karen could say more. So,
Okay.
So I really grew up in Addenbrooke's. I feel like I did a lot of my growing up in Addenbrooke's, and in fact, I spent more years here than I have in Philippines, really now. So I spent more time here. I grew up here. I came here single. Then I had my family and my kids, and that's what Karen was referring to, Karen and Rachel Thaxter, really, because we then have our kids, and it's been looked after in who was in Bunnybrooks, and that's how we met. That's what we met, like when you're picking up kids after the shift or after work, and you kind of just walk down with the kids and sharing all your difficulties and challenges with kids. And yeah,
There's none of those, surely,
so yeah, they're more challenging sometimes than in a shift. But yeah, so we formed quite a lot of friendships and families, to be honest. And it's really great that 20 years on, it still remains.
Yeah. And Vicky, do you want to have a guess at when Bunnybrooks was founded? When it was
Oh my
started?
gosh.
And I only know this, I give you a clue, I only know this because we've been talking to colleagues who've been here celebrating their long service at 30 and 40 years. So how long would we say? Is it 30 or 40 years?
Must be 30.
Yeah.
That's just
that's right, isn't it, David?
Yep.
Good. Lovely. So Vicky, thank you very much for that, and Karen. And there are so many great questions and comments coming through into the chat. I can hardly keep up with them. So we're now getting on to fancy dress in dialysis on Christmas Eve, Christmas dinners. Julie, you were served Christmas dinner by Mary Archer. Mike, when we're out of COVID, I think we're back down into the concourse to be doing that. Lots of lovely memories in the chat. We do Christmas dinners, but we need to be serving them in fancy dress, I think is what Tracy's saying. Tracy, are you there? Speak up, Tracy. What fancy dress would you like to see us in?
Oh, I don't mind what fancy dress. It used to be quite fun.
Okay.
Somebody had a rabbit outfit once that was a bit hot.
I can believe that. Okay, so there's something here then about teams, isn't there? Maintaining that. There's something about fun, having fun. We heard about that a lot in the people who've been here for 30 years. And something about opportunities and doing things differently and being able to move around within the family. Okay, good. So August, could we, as we just draw to a close, could we just go to the names on the slideshow? Lovely. So a huge well done and thank you to all of you for all that you've done to contribute to the family that is Cambridge University Hospitals, Addenbrooke's and the Rosie. And here are just some of the names, or here are all of the names of 20 years service. If we could just go on, August. Lovely. And then on again. And on again, I think. Keep going. Keep going. I think we have one or two more. Yes. Well done, everyone. And I think we have one more page. Lovely. So a huge thank you and well done to all of you. And do just come off mute if you want to, and a big round of applause. And very much look forward to seeing you at the 30-year celebration in 10 years' time. So thank you and well done. Thank you.